एजुकेशन मिनिस्टर के लिए पोर्टफोलियो देने के लिए उससे काबिल शख्स कोई नहीं था, तो चुनाचे मौलाना आजाद को ये पोर्टफोलियो दिया गया। वो 3 बुनियादी बातें जो है की हैं जो आज की मुनासिबत से मैं अर्ज करना चाहूंगा। सबसे पहले उन्होंने कहा कि ये डेमोक्रेटिक कंट्री कामयाब होने के लिए जरूरी है कि डेमोक्रेटाइजेशन ऑफ एजुकेशन किया जाए, यानी ये पहले कॉलोनलाइजेशन ऑफ एजुकेशन था, तो उससे उन्होंने बेड़ा उठाया कि इसको डेमोक्रेटाइज किया जाए एजुकेशन को। दूसरा उन्होंने कहा कि एजुकेशन को सेक्युलराइज किया जाए, यानी स्टेट शुड नॉट टेक द रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ऑफ टीचिंग द रिलीजन। जब हिंदुस्तान जब आजाद हुआ, जब पहली वजारत उनको दी गई, तो सबसे पहले उन्होंने तालीमी इदारों का जाल इस मुल्क में फैलाने की कोशिश की, लेकिन चूंकि उतना सरमाया नहीं था तो लिहाजा उन्होंने गवर्नमेंट स्कूल के साथ साथ एडेड स्कूल को भी प्रमोट किया। तो चुनाचे हम पहले 3 या 4 डिकेड्स अगर देखेंगे तो ऑन पार विद गवर्नमेंट इंस्टीट्यूशंस, एडेड इंस्टीट्यूशंस भी काफी उनका, अब 1978 तक देखेंगे तो ऊपर जो गवर्नमेंट स्कूल का जो कंट्रीब्यूशन था 74% था। अब सूरत हाल ये है कि 50% ऑफ द स्टूडेंट्स जो हमारे मुल्क के हैं वो जो है करीब 4.5 लाख स्कूलों में हमारे पास इस मुल्क में पढ़ रहे हैं। तो 50% इस मुल्क की 50% तालीम की जिम्मेदारी प्राइवेट अनएडेड सेक्टर निभा रहा है, जो आमतौर पर बताया नहीं जाता। आमतौर पर प्राइवेट स्कूल के बारे में जैसे हम वर्ड सोचते, हम ये सोचते कि प्राइवेट स्कूल फॉर प्रिविलेज्ड, यानी ये ऐसे लोग हैं जो क्रीमी लेयर पढ़ता है। आपको सुनकर हैरत होगी कि 45% ऑफ द स्टूडेंट्स, यानी 9 लाख जो बच्चे हैं उसमें 9 करोड़ बच्चे जो प्राइवेट स्कूलों में पढ़ते हैं, उसमें 4.5 करोड़ बच्चे 500 से कम माहाना फीस देकर पढ़ते हैं, जिनको लो फीस स्कूल कहा जाता है। अगर आप ये डेटा देखेंगे कि प्रोपोर्शन ऑफ एनरोलमेंट इन वेरियस फी टायर्स, इससे आपको पता चलेगा कि 45% जो स्टूडेंट्स हैं जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूट वो लेस देन 500 रुपीज पर मंथ फीस देकर पढ़ते हैं, और सिर्फ जो बाकी का जो 3 सेक्शंस हैं ये वो हैं जो लेस देन 1000 रुपीज फीस देकर पढ़ते हैं। तो सबसे बड़ा जो कंट्रीब्यूशन इनकलाब प्राइवेट स्कूलों ने इस मुल्क में जो लाया है वो प्राइवेट स्कूल फॉर एलीट से उसको नीचे लाकर लो फीस स्ट्रक्चर में लाया है, अफोर्डेबल बनाया है, नेबरहुड स्कूल बनाया है। ये प्राइवेट स्कूल का इस मुल्क के लिए बहुत बड़ा कंट्रीब्यूशन है। अगर आप ये स्लाइड देखेंगे, पहली स्लाइड में 10.9 लाख स्कूल्स हैं गवर्नमेंट जो चलाती है, जिसमें से 13 करोड़ बच्चे पढ़ते हैं। ये नीचे का जो आप 4.6 लाख स्कूल जो पढ़ रहे हैं उसमें 11.9 करोड़ चिल्ड्रन पढ़ रहे हैं। ये फिगर्स आप कंपेयर करेंगे तो पता चलेगा कि सिर्फ 4.5 लाख स्कूलों में 11 करोड़ बच्चे पढ़ रहे हैं प्राइवेट स्कूलों में इंडिया में। गवर्नमेंट स्कूलों में 30 करोड़ पढ़ रहे हैं, 13 करोड़ पढ़ रहे हैं, तो ऑलमोस्ट उनका जो फिगर है तकरीबन बराबर है, लेकिन स्कूल देखेंगे तो आधे से कम है। यानी प्राइवेट स्कूल का जो रेशियो है, एक स्कूल में ज्यादा बच्चे हैं कंपेयर्ड विद द गवर्नमेंट स्कूल। ये ग्रोथ ऑफ प्राइवेट स्कूल अगर आप देखेंगे तो इसमें आपको पता चलेगा, ये नेशनल फिगर्स हैं, खासतौर से राइट वाली जो स्लाइड है अगर आप देखेंगे तो जो 1993 से 2017 तक जो सेक्टर में एनसीईआरटी का डेटा है, इससे आपको पता चलेगा कि जो गवर्नमेंट स्कूल का जो एनरोलमेंट है वो 70 से डाउन होकर 50% चले गया, और जो प्राइवेट अनएडेड सेक्टर का 9.2 से लेकर 34.8 तक ये सेक्टर जंप हुआ है। आप सोच रहे होंगे कि ये 500 रुपए से कम फीस देने वाले स्कूल क्या क्वालिटी एजुकेशन दे रहे हैं, ये तो पता नहीं बच्चों की जिंदगियां खराब कर रहे हैं। ये स्लाइड उसका जवाब है। लेफ्ट साइड में हालांकि इंडिया का जो लर्निंग आउटकम है वो बहुत सारे कंट्रीज के मुकाबले में बहुत पीछे जा रहा है, ये हमारे सबके लिए कंसर्न की बात है। लेकिन अगर आप गवर्नमेंट स्कूल और प्राइवेट स्कूल को कंपेयर करेंगे, या लेफ्ट साइड का फिगर रीडिंग एबिलिटी अगर देखेंगे, लेफ्ट साइड में गवर्नमेंट स्कूल्स का 44% है तो प्राइवेट स्कूल्स का 65% है। यानी ये 500 रुपए से कम में फीस लेकर इनकी जो रीडिंग कैपेबिलिटी प्राइवेट स्कूल का ये डेटा है, ये ऐसा डेटा है। अगर आप देखेंगे तो इनका जो कंट्रीब्यूशन है, इनकी जो लर्निंग एबिलिटी है ये 65% है। अगर आप मैथ्स की एबिलिटी देखेंगे तो वो गवर्नमेंट स्कूल की जो बच्चों की जो मैथ्स की एबिलिटी है वो 22% है, और ये प्राइवेट अनएडेड स्कूल जो 500 रुपए से माहाना कम फीस में बच्चों को पढ़ा रहे हैं उनकी एबिलिटी 39.8 है। private schools, particularly budget schools, need as much attention as government schools. ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट मसला है हमारा कि जिस तरह से कि गवर्नमेंट स्कूल के बच्चों को अटेंशन चाहिए, जरूर चाहिए, हमारे बच्चों को भी अटेंशन चाहिए, हमारे स्कूलों को भी उतना ही अटेंशन चाहिए जितना गवर्नमेंट स्कूल्स को चाहिए. मल्टीपल. अब दूसरी चीज ये है कि प्राइवेट स्कूल चलाने के लिए तकरीबन बहुत सारे डिपार्टमेंट्स से उनको साबका पड़ता है. देयर आर मल्टीपल एजेंसीज विच आर गवर्निंग दी प्राइवेट स्कूल. ये हमारा मसला है. ये आखिरी स्लाइड है. सवाल ये है कि प्राइवेट स्कूलों के बारे में क्यों पब्लिकली नहीं कहा जाता है. वो एलिफेंट इन द रूम वाली बात है. हर आदमी को हाथी नजर आता है लेकिन कोई बोलना नहीं चाहता. शुक्रिया.
Second, as president of a residential school society which runs 204 schools across Telangana with a capacity of close to 140,000 children staying and studying in them, I am the president of that society. On a National Education Day, so I put on that hat also. First, let me compliment my brother Azim and Sajid Ali Saab for the excellent presentations they have given. If he covered one facet, Sajid Ali Saab very effectively put across the concerns of the budget schools and how importantly they have been contributing for the spread of education. In fact, many of us in the government, particularly among the bureaucracy, we have no doubt at all that considering the need, very high need of education, for that matter medical and health and transport, many other sectors, private sector should never be seen as a competitor to the government sector. They are fulfilling complementary roles. Government can go thus far. From there the private sector has to take over. Imagine the day autos or private transport goes on strike in city, how much of chaos exists, how many will fail to reach their destination for work. For the tertiary type of medical care, you will have to go to US and other places. Visas, cars, travel and all those sort of things come in. That's what we used to practice. Same thing in education sector also. Government has to have its role. But a lot of, in a democracy, we were talking of democratization of education, which Maulana Azad Sahab was very held very dear to his heart. When he wanted democratization, what does democratization mean? It's not only one type of education. Everybody must have a choice to choose the type of education system that he wants to have. That's possible only when the private sector also exists alongside the government sector. There's no doubt about it. And this role is very clear. It's a complementary role, not a competitive role. Now, it's good that important days like this, the birthdays of very famous personalities, those who have built the nation, are celebrated in one context or the other. Many of you are teachers here. If Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan's birthday is celebrated as Teachers' Day, there is a significance to that. If you say it's only his birthday, I don't think the important aspect, the role of a teacher in society, without which the society itself cannot be perpetuated, cannot built up. So that would be totally non-existent. Same way, today we reminiscence the life of Maulana Azad Sahab as National Education Day because of the scholarly and very important contributions that he made. Before getting into what contributions he made as an educationist and the first education minister of India, let's just reminiscence about his life a little and the values that he held dear. Because in whatever he did for first 11 years as education minister in independent India, it had a very firm imprint of his personality, very firm imprint it had. So if you go back to his life, 1888 he was born in the holy city of Mecca, all of us are aware of it. And you know, perhaps the biggest compliment that was paid to his intellect, what a great intellectual he was done by Sarojini Naidu. Sarojini Naidu also incidentally had a great connect with Hyderabad. Her father was principal of Nizam College, and she, on the scholarship of Nizam, she went to London and studied. She had mentioned, perhaps at birth itself, Maulana Azad had the intellect of a 50-year-old. And that was the exact word that she used when she was talking of Maulana Azad. First 10 years he did not have any formal education. It was only, he was homeschooled. Neither he went to a private school, not to our schools in government. No school he went. He was homeschooled by his father. Perhaps for his intellect, no school would have given him any sort of initially जो इब्तदाई तालीम होती है वो कहीं से हासिल नहीं हो पाती थी शायद. So he stayed at home and did it. It was in Arabic and Persian, of course. Only two languages he knew. Not even Urdu. English, of course, was a much later addition to his personality. But then at the age of 10, when he came to Bengal, came back along with the family, at the age of 12, imagine at the age of 12, he had already started a debate society, he had started a public library, and then he has started very vociferously writing on different subjects. And very engaged, he started his newspaper also. Al Hilal was the first newspaper in the early 1900s when he started it. And he started talking of a lot of aspects which later Mahatma Gandhi and many other freedom fighters started talking about much earlier than anybody else, particularly on the aspect of the Hindu-Muslim unity. In 1912 itself he started talking about it. His age was 12 plus 12, 24 years of age. By then he started talking about the need of Hindu-Muslim unity. There are two things which are very firmly embedded in his mind. His early life was in Arabia, so he had known the Islamic history, Islamic jurisprudence, Islamic theology very well. He had quoted in one of his earliest publications and in Al Hilal that he had given the context of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He had differentiated the two. What was he as a theologian? What was he as an administrator? He said, the Ummat-e-Wahida, the concept we get from our Prophet's life, that is what he wanted to get into India. In the Medina of those days, when Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was both temporal and spiritual head of the community, the temporal aspect, the worldly aspect, he said, yes, religion-wise, we are all in Islam. But then when it comes to polity, the nationalism encompasses all. There were Christians there, Judaism existed, so much so even paganism existed. But he said everybody is a proper citizen, everybody is entitled for the state benefits, everybody was entitled to the equal protection of the state. And this was the concept, Islamic concept in the nascent Islamic state. Maulana Azad brought this with him when he came here. That's why in 1923, at the young age, he was youngest ever Indian National Congress president, I remember that. So in 1923, when he, as president of Indian National Congress, he was making his speech, he told one thing: if this nation has to prosper, flourish, and become an example for the rest of the world, Hindu-Muslim unity is very important. If a Farishta from Jannah, if an angel from the heaven descends and tells me to take independence at the cost of Hindu-Muslim unity, I would say, let usme ta'khir ho sakti hai. Let the independence be delayed, but if it is coming at the cost of Hindu-Muslim unity, it should not come early. First the unity, we have to remain united as one nation, then only later we could have it. But those were the ideals that he held dear. That is why they said when it comes the comparison between Muhammad Ali Jinnah and Maulana Azad, when it is made, see, he's something like, again, we are talking of Radhakrishnan simultaneously. What Radhakrishnan did to Hinduism by philosophizing that religion and talking about Upanishads, Maulana Azad did when it came to Islam. Many non-Muslims also have read those works and then they stand by those. Then as an educationist, he himself was an intellectual. I don't think independent India could have selected a better person than him to be the first education minister. There could not have been a better choice. That's why Pandit Nehru, when he selected him, he gave him full independence to do whatever he wanted with the education system. The three concepts that were told, from colonialization to democratization, democratization to universalization of education, and secularization of education, all these things happened under his leadership. Now, not only the universities that we have, the IITs and IIMs. The first IIT was established when he was education minister at Kharagpur. And later, today MS is sitting by my side. I call him MS. So, sitting by my side, when all his students are, most of the children who study in the institutions, either they want to get into IITs, IIMs, the foundation was laid at that particular time with the first such institution, an institution of excellence. And not only that, we may talk of All India Institute of Medical Sciences. It may be in the field of medical and health, but still, he is the one who conceptualized medical education through All India Institute of Medical Sciences and the corollary medical college that was started along with that. So, he had that vision of not only universalizing education and also going for excellence. CSIR laboratories. In fact, I did my research in those days RR Labs at Tarnaka. Today it is Indian Institute of Chemical Technology. The 4 first chemical laboratories that were started in the country were by him. And not only that, in the field of culture, some of the institutions might have migrated to the Ministry of Culture now, but they were part of, because Culture Ministry did not exist at that time, it was part of education. The Sahitya Academy, the Sangeet Natak Academy, all those institutions he conceptualized and started. So that his contribution had been immense when it came to the field of education. In fact, in Parliament, I think we must pick up that speech and then the arguments that he made in favor of education, why we are doing it in a particular way. In the 1952, his speech in Parliament is something remarkable. It's available in many Urdu texts also. So we must see that, then we'll understand what a great man he was. And then how well he conceptualized Indian education in the beginning. So these are some of the stray thoughts that were coming to my mind at a time like this. Now that we're talking of budget schools, also about the COVID impact, etc. Perhaps आपके पास एक स्कूल है, मेरे पास 204 स्कूल हैं, तो 204 times I'm impacted more. So when it comes to COVID, last 2 years the travels that we have in Timriz of educating the children is something pitiable, I'm telling you. When we started 204 minority residential schools, half of them we have done for girls. Our problem is much more with the girls because, see, whatever has happened, last 8-10 years, one big change that has come about in Telangana society, particularly in the city of Hyderabad. I am talking with full authority because I was Commissioner of Police of this city also about 12 years back. We used to see the scourge of Arab marriages, how difficult it was for some of the parents to get the girls married in poor families, etc. Now today we are not hearing of the Arab marriages any longer. We are not hearing about it at all. The second one is probably the marriageable age also has gone up compared to what it used to be 14, 15. Now 17, 18 and maybe beyond also it would have gone up, even in the lower middle classes and those areas. Spread of education has had a very important role in this particular thing. आमिर साहब के लिए हमारी एक गुजारिश भी है कि आपके सेंटर से इसका स्टडी भी करवाइए. I'll facilitate it for you and give the report back to us, so it will help us in the administration. So इसमें a few problems that we used to have. You know, I was just seeing how many representations I have got in the last 1 year. 187 girls from among the 40,000 that we have in our schools, they have put up the messages. Sir, school जरा जल्दी शुरू करवाइए, घर में शादी की बात हो रही है, मैं और पढ़ना चाहती हूँ. I want to study. I'm still in 9th and 10th. If you don't open the schools, they'll marry me off. My education will go away. So that is one type of thing. Second aspect is many children dropped out of education in the last 2 years. Now our problem has been to get them back. We kept on experimenting with lot of aspects. Like say every school we picked up 12 top girls. In fact, I picked up their numbers and started ringing up and telling the parents, "Bhai, ये सब बहुत temporary phase है ये COVID का, maybe 1 year, 2 years, थोड़ा बर्दाश्त कर लीजिए. Meanwhile, we'll go on with effective, ineffective, whatever type of education we have on the online education. Not effective at all, if you ask me, clearly. So then we'll somehow pull through. And then again, अच्छे दिन आएंगे और हम लोग ये शुरू करेंगे फिर इसको. तो we were waiting for that. And then those 12 girls, addresses we took and started sending our principals to their homes, not to withdraw the girls from the education because they are doing very well. I'm happy that 90-95% trusted in us and stayed back. तो हमारे भी ये प्रॉब्लम्स हैं, गवर्नमेंट में भी हैं, बजट स्कूल्स के भी हैं. बजट स्कूल्स में एक प्रॉब्लम तो है आपका. I have seen this. Parents have a problem in paying the fee because they are not getting the regular salaries. You cannot stay away, you'll have to pay the teachers. A lot of measures were identified, some were implemented, many have to be implemented. Again, COVID came in the way of their implementation. We'll pick up where we had stopped and then take it forward and see that these 2 lakh children also continue to get the benefit of education system. With that, and then this is the first time you are organizing this. I believe the organization itself is a recent creation, very recent. Association of Minority Education Institutions. You should flourish. Same what Muhammad Quli Qutub Shah had the dream. So I have the same good wishes I extend to you. You should flourish and many more should join this organization, because unless you organize, you cannot have a voice. Even when you come to the government and want to put forward your views, if I have been in government for 37 years, he is still there currently. So he wanted to join, but he stayed away. So all leftists here. So सब left में जो बैठे हैं सब ऐसे हैं हम लोग. So now we tell you, anybody who wants to come and meet us sends a letter and a letterhead. We try to first see what is his strength. How much weight does he carry in the society? Only then we start taking them seriously. So you have to add more mass, critical mass. Then once you cross that critical mass, then only the explosion, nuclear explosion can happen. So do that, and I wish you all the best in these endeavors. Organize and then come to us. And I am never tired of telling, since I have become advisor for the last 6 years, I have been always telling, let us not have the distinction of government, non-government, private, etc. The society needs are so great. And then I am very openly admitting and telling you, what you can do, I cannot do. What I can do, you cannot do. I have the power, I have the authority, I have the resources. Those things are with me. But the passion, maybe more competence, more ability is available in you. We have to wet these 2 things together for the greater benefit of the society. I am sure that would happen. With this, and then once again thanking you for inviting me for this program. I wish all the best on the National Education Day as also on National Minorities Day. Thank you.
इन शोख हसीनों की अदा और ही कुछ है और इनकी अदाओं में मजा और ही कुछ है। हम आपकी महफिल में आने को ना आते, हम आपकी महफिल में आने को ना आते, कुछ और ही समझा था, हुआ और ही कुछ है। एक और, कोई नाला कोई गिरिया कोई बिस्मिल हो गया। ये मैं समझ रहा था कि खान साहब अपनी स्पीच के बाद चले जाएंगे, तो ये शेर मैं तैयार करके रखा था। कोई नाला कोई गिरिया कोई बिस्मिल हो गया, उसके उठते ही दिगर गो रंगे महफिल हो गया। अब ये मैं सब क्यों सुना रहा हूं, अब ये सुनिए आपको समझ में आएगा ये मैं क्यों सुना रहा था। ये भी कैदी हो गया आखिर कमंदे जुल्फ का, ये भी कैदी हो गया आखिर कमंदे जुल्फ का, ले असीरों में तेरे आजाद शामिल हो गया।
But has it ever happened so far when you are in a mahfil, I have left before you?
No, never. Never. But ये जो आखिरी लाइन थी, ले असीरों में तेरे आजाद शामिल हो गया, तो ये लाइनें थी मौलाना अबुल कलाम आजाद की। His genius, जो खान साहब ने कहा, which Sarojini Naidu identified, was evident in a multiple series of activities, and he was a pretty good poet too. और इस तरह की लाइनें, इस तरह की शोक लाइनें जो आप एक स्टर्न मौलाना से नई तवक्को रखते हैं, वो उन्होंने बहुत लिखी हैं। तो मौलाना आजाद का कंट्रीब्यूशन बहुत अजीब अजीब पहलुओं में रहा है, और खान साहब ने आप लोगों को वो सारे पहलू दिखा दिए जो मौलाना आजाद का कंट्रीब्यूशन था इन द एजुकेशन सिस्टम। मैं जो एक कंटेम्प्रेरी इशू में उनका कंट्रीब्यूशन बहुत बड़ा समझता हूँ, वो ये कि 1921 में उनके खिलाफ एक केस हुआ, उसके फौरन बाद महात्मा गांधी के साथ भी हुआ। ये ब्रिटिश गवर्नमेंट ने कई केसेस फाइल किए थे इन बड़े लोगों के खिलाफ ऑन द इशू ऑफ सेडिशन, राइट। और सेडिशन बड़ा कॉन्टेम्प्रेरी टॉपिक है, इसलिए बहुत जरूरी है कि हम उसको याद करें। 100 साल बाद फिर वही हालत है हमारे मुल्क की। तो मौलाना आजाद के खिलाफ सेडिशन का केस था, और वो जो तकरीर थी सर, विच ही मेक्स इन कोर्ट सेइंग की, एंड ही सेज कि देखिए, अगर सेडिशन का मतलब ये है कि मैं हारा हुआ आजादी का सिपाही हूं, तो यही सही, लेकिन ये याद रखिए, जब मैं जीत जाऊंगा तो यही सेडिशन पेट्रियोटिज्म हो जाएगा। तो बड़ी अच्छी स्पीच है। तो देयर इज वन कैन कीप टॉकिंग अबाउट वेरियस एस्पेक्ट्स ऑफ मौलाना आजाद लाइफ, और इसीलिए हम आज जमा हुए हैं कि AMI के अस्सलाम वालेकुम, इसलिए हम जमा हुए आज कि हम इस ग्रुप में मौलाना आजाद की जो खूबियां थी, जो उनके कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशंस थे, उनको लेके चंद बातें समझे। एंड थैंक्स टू अगेन टू AK खान साहब फॉर अंडरस्टैंडिंग कि हमने क्यों ये पर्टिकुलर थीम यूज किया है आज। तो इसमें सर आई हैव टू मेक थ्री सिंपल पॉइंट्स आप सब लोगों के लिए। पहला पॉइंट ये है कि, और ये भी खान साहब ने इस बात का जिक्र किया, साजिद भाई ने भी किया, कि अगर आप 1800 ईस्वी से पहले देखें तो हमारे पास हिंदुस्तान में बहुत सारे प्राइवेट अनएडेड स्कूल्स हुआ करते थे। ये बाकायदा डॉक्यूमेंटेड है। दो बड़ी स्टडीज हैं, एक मद्रास की और एक बंबई की। मद्रास में 25% मेल आबादी प्राइवेट अनएडेड स्कूल में पढ़ा करती थी 1800 ईस्वी तक। 1820 में ये सारे स्कूल बंद हो गए ब्रिटिश गवर्नमेंट की वजह से। सिमिलरली बॉम्बे में अबाउट 27% आबादी इन्हीं स्कूलों में पढ़ा करती थी, जो प्राइवेट थे और अनएडेड थे। इन सब गरीब मुल्कों में जेम्स टूली कहते हैं कि बुनियाद और बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट एजुकेशन प्रोविजन फॉर द पुअर कम्स ओनली from privatized, he calls it grassroots privatization, grassroots privatized budget schools. तो इस पे बहुत काम हो रखा है। आप लोगों की जो कोशिश है उस पर सीरियस इकोनॉमिक लिटरेचर बहुत ज्यादा है, और वर्ल्ड बैंक और MIT ने उसके बाद एक बड़ी स्टडी की ये मालूम करने के लिए कि क्वालिटी ऑफ एजुकेशन कैसी होती है। एंड इन ऑल दीज लाइबेरिया, स्लोवेनिया, 8-9 कंट्रीज में और हिंदुस्तान में 7-8 डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स में इस बात की तहकीक करके वर्ल्ड बैंक और MIT का ये बड़ा सॉलिड पेपर है जो कहता है कि unaided private schools का quality of education is at least 70% better than public education, than government education in all fields. So therefore, that is my first point, that this sector, which is the elephant in the room, performs a very important role. जो खान साहब ने बड़ा अच्छा कहा कि अगर आप हमारा हेल्थ केयर सेक्टर देखें तो हम जब बीमार होते हैं तो कहाँ जाते हैं, हम कौन से गवर्नमेंट हॉस्पिटल को जाते हैं? इंडिया में 80% हेल्थ केयर इज विद द प्राइवेट सेक्टर. सिमिलरली इंडिया 53% education is with the private sector, a small part of which is with the rich schools. Most of it is with the budget schools. That's my first point and my first recommendation to all of you, that all of you should read James Tooley. The second point that I wanted to make was कि आखिर ये गरीब स्कूल या लो कॉस्ट स्कूल का डेफिनेशन क्या है? ये स्कूल कुछ अच्छा है सुनाई दे रहा है ना? तो ये लो कॉस्ट स्कूल का डेफिनेशन क्या है? इंटरनेशनली लो कॉस्ट स्कूल का डेफिनेशन is the average fee that a low cost school charges. तो सबसे ज्यादा इंटरजेनरेशनल मोबिलिटी यानी सबसे ज्यादा मूवमेंट फ्रॉम अ लो पोजीशन टू अ हाई पोजीशन इन इंडिया वेरी क्लियरली इज अमंग द शेड्यूल्ड कास्ट. शेड्यूल्ड कास्ट का transportation from a very poor, miserable condition to a much better condition happens the most appreciably about 7. उसके कुछ units हैं, so about 70% it goes up. ST is the next, क्योंकि ये दोनों बहुत नीचे थी, तो इनके लिए movement was easy with 1 or 2 generations of education. The upper caste in India, intergenerational mobility is 0. वो जो जहां थी वहां है. एक कौम है हिंदुस्तान में जो जहां थी अब उससे नीचे चली. That is the tragedy. I will not tell you which one. Thank you.
This one in schools where they have midday meals program, first the principal should go taste the food, then only allow the other students to do. This is something I found in Rishi Valley. Rishi Valley, my son, elder son studied in Rishi Valley school. ये दो concept जो हैं, senior students teaching the junior students. Once a new student goes and joins that school, mess facility that we have, all the 3 times children take food there and 2 times snacks, etc. So then first we were keeping the teachers away, only children used to do with the wardens, etc. Now we have made it compulsory for the teachers to dine with the students. They are not only teaching them the value of different vegetables and then fully integrated meal, even the mannerisms, why food should not be left, why it should not be wasted. If you ask somebody to go just teach them in the classroom, there is nothing, you can't do that. This is what Japanese model is. This is what happens in Finland and Poland. They train them in real life situations. So this has a value. Every teacher should adopt that child and then try to bring about a total turnaround in the personality. That definitely becomes possible there. A small anecdote, not exactly anecdote, when you were mentioning something about Maulana Azad's life, a few things. One thing came to my mind. What Pandit Nehru had said at the demise of Maulana Azad Sahab, he had said, "Mere karwan humse bichhad gaye." Is that the word that he used? The leader of our entire group is no more. He is no more. Because of his intellect, if you get into a freedom struggle also and see, whether it was the Round Table Conference or when the Cripps Mission visited India, Mahatma Gandhi, Sardar Patel and then Pandit Nehru, all of them unanimously said the delegation, Indian delegation, will be led by Maulana Azad. He is the one who was the leader of the delegation at such important occasions. It was also incidental. He was not only the youngest president of Indian National Congress. At the time India got independence, again he was the president of Indian National Congress. That is the importance that was given to him for his intellect and nationalistic ideas.
सबसे पहली बात ये कहूँगा कि इस प्रोग्राम को इस शक्ल में लाने के लिए जो सोर्स ऑफ मोटिवेशन है, जो रोए रहा रहे हैं, ये पूरा प्रोग्राम जो है आमिर खान साहब के टेबल पे बना है। तो हम उनके शुक्रगुजार हैं और उन्होंने बजा तौर पर कहा कि आज़ादी के बाद से जो है जो SC STs जो हैं उनको रिजर्वेशन की वजह से उनको वर्टिकल मोबिलिटी आ गई, यानी इखराज। तो आपने बजा कहा है कि वी आर मुस्लिम कम्युनिटी जो है फिल वक्त एक एक्सक्लूजन का शिकार है, तो लिहाजा हम सबको मिलकर इंक्लूजन के लिए जो है रास्ते तलाश करना है। एक बार फिर मैं बेहद ममनू हूँ प्रोफेसर आमिरुल्लाह खान साहब का।
A very good afternoon, everyone. I'm very pleased to be here on this very important day, National Education Day, and thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this fabulous event. Respected dignitaries on the dais and all the participants who are seated, a very warm welcome to this. And I really like the way the themes are focused. Sajid sir spoke about the budget private school sector, and reference speaker A.K. Khan sir spoke about the importance of this day and the contributions Maulana Azad ji made for this country. And we are also looking at another dimension right now in the current context. What is the role of civil society? So this is a topic that I am asked to speak on, which is a very important aspect as well. There is a government role, there is also a role for the civil society. So I'll try to elaborate on that aspect, particularly in the context of budget private schools, right? So just to bring to the context what is the contribution of budget private schools, I'll again highlight some of the data points. I think Sajid sir also spoke about them before, but it's worth talking about it. So majority of the private schools are unaided and low fee. In a study conducted by Center Square Foundation, they wanted to produce the report highlighting the role of budget private schools, and they mentioned that majority of the private schools in India are private, unaided and low fee private schools, and very importantly there are 9 crore children who are studying in these schools. So it is almost 40% of India's children, school going children. Another interesting statistic is 70% of these children pay less than 1,000 rupees. And second important point is 45% of the children pay less than 500 rupees. Have the ability to hire high quality teachers and then pay them better. So this is also low quality teaching is leading to poor learning outcomes, right? This is, I think, one more place where budget private schools can be supported by the civil society. And lastly, there is a hostile attitude on private schools. Not all private schools are bad. There are a lot of budget private schools who are doing human service and advancing the cause of universal education. I think even civil society needs to contribute in eliminating this hostile attitude towards budget private schools. If we don't remove that hostile attitude, then we can't create an ecosystem of support. I am the founder of a non-profit organization. I'll tell you my experience. Whenever I go for fundraising, it becomes very difficult for me to get funds for a project which are supporting budget private schools. If I say this project is going to be implemented in a government school, then there are donors who are interested to come. Why is that happening? Because everyone looks at private schools with suspicion. Hey, this is all profit-making people. Why do you want to support them? Why don't you invest in a government school, right? Because there is a hostile attitude towards these schools, then it becomes very difficult to create a conducive civil society environment which supports budget private schools. That is why I strongly feel that civil society also needs to play a role in highlighting the plight of budget private schools and the contributions they are making for advancing education inequity, right? So these are the 3 areas where I feel budget private schools can be supported by the civil society. And some of the players that I think are very critical in this engagement is definitely NGOs. There are a lot of NGOs who are doing good work to improve the education quality. NGOs can play a critical role. There are CSRs also who can support in this journey. Unfortunately, at this point in time, the attention of CSRs is not towards supporting the cause of budget private schools, I'll just highlight there are some early startups who are thinking of supporting budget private schools as well. In our experience, there are some donors who are supporting us also to engage in our projects with budget private schools. I think more number of such things should happen. The next thing is high net worth individuals who also have interest to advance the cause of education. They can also look at supporting budget private schools more positively rather than looking at it in a hostile way. And obviously media also has a role. During the pandemic we noticed that they played a very tarnishing role, but I think we need to understand the context from which budget private schools are also operating, and then try to give a positive picture of budget private schools as well, looking at the whole context as such rather than tarnishing them. I think media also has a very important role in this aspect. And lastly, intellectuals, public intellectuals, try to put the cause of budget private schools forward. So these are the 5 big agents that I see are very important from the civil society aspect to work for the budget private schools cause. The first thing I feel needs attention and support from civil society is the most important aspect: quality enrichment programs in budget private schools. This is most important because the parent of the budget private school is sending to the schools with the hope that their children will get better education, and if they are not getting this better education, they are at double disadvantage. One, their children would have got free education in a government school but still at a low quality. Here in budget private school, they are not getting even the quality of education, so they are at a disadvantage despite the fact that they are paying fee. So that's why I strongly believe that there should be a focus on quality enrichment program in budget private schools. It could be in terms of teacher trainings or school headmasters trainings, or very importantly, student empowerment programs. Today if you see, a lot of student empowerment programs are being supported only for government school children. You look at Delhi education revolution, completely what's happening. All the initiatives, it could be a business masters program which was launched by Delhi government to support, to build entrepreneurial skills in students. They are all taken only in the government schools. Why can't such initiatives also be extended to children in the budget private schools? Because these are our own children. Their parents have sent them for a different reason, but why should the system not consider them to be our own children and also support them, right? And for that, what I strongly believe is now there is a need for NGOs, CSRs and private school associations like AMI to come together as a collective and focus on improving quality of learning outcomes for the students. That's the first big thing. There are a lot of NGOs working in silos independently, but that might not help. If we all come together, then we can bring about quality revolution in even budget private schools and show them as proof points of brilliance. In just 500 rupees, 1000 rupees, we are producing top-notch education that an international school is able to provide. I think it's possible if all of us come together and think through what kind of quality intervention programs, and it can't be one day or one event. It has to be over a period of time, 5 years, continuous program, so that all schools, budget private schools, are also able to show the quality, and they can also compete with corporate schools in terms of quality offering, right? So that is my first proposition, and I just want to highlight that there are some early starters in terms of organizations who are looking to support budget private schools. Unfortunately, a lot of players who are in the budget private schools are private players, but there are also some non-profits who are slowly focusing. One of the examples is Raj Alokit, and I also see that 3-to-1 Education Foundation, they also came into the sector to train teachers. Then we also see Learning Curve Foundation. There are some organizations who started thinking there needs to be some work done. And the joy of reading, I don't know how many of you had heard about it. If you have not heard about it, please do talk to them. They are very interested in setting up libraries. The good thing about low budget private schools is the managements are interested to provide quality education. You also hold yourself accountable. I think these two things will distinguish you all in making sure that whatever initiatives are supported by corporates, they will come to the best use, and then the corporates also feel more satisfied about their investments, right? These are just few thoughts. And last part is advocacy. I think this part has to continue. Civil society has to highlight the positives of low-fee private schools and eliminate the hostility that is there in the society on low-budget private schools. I think that is also a very critical role that needs more attention. Organizations like NISA, organizations like AMI right now, they are playing a very critical role in bringing out evidence-based work to talk about the need for supporting budget private schools. On this note, I just want to close this. The reality at this point in time is very hostile, very difficult for low-fee private schools, but I think I'm hopeful through collaboration with all of us, I think we will tide this journey. Maybe a year down the line, we'll be in a better place, but we should get ready to collaborate with the civil society also, to learn from the mistakes of the past and think of a better future for the future. I'm leaving this floor with that hope that we'll be able to achieve that as well. Thank you so much.
To the dais and present a memento to Mr. Pramod.
Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon, everybody. It's a very inspiring audience actually. आप लोगों के patience के, आप लोगों के सब्र का माशाल्लाह हिम्मत अफजाई देना है. First of all, people on the dais, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया आप. We are sharing a stage, we are sharing a platform on a very auspicious day, an education day. To start with, I will select the center word actually, education. So I'll just take 10 minutes, I'll not bore you. I don't have a presentation to show you, I just want to talk to you, to listen to you, to interact with you. So let's focus on the middle word, education. So what do we understand as a 21st century human being? What does it mean by education? Do we look at it at an institutional level, going to a school, taking a pen, a pencil, and then basically getting 10th class, intermediate, graduation, post-graduation? Is this what we call education? Or is it something smaller than that or bigger than that? We need to understand the value of that word. That is the only word that makes you different than any other creature that exists in this system of cosmos. See, if you do not value the value of education, you are not basically giving value to your identity. As a human being, you are the only creature in this cosmos economic ecosystem that differentiates you. Believe me or not, show me a different creature that has a pen, that has the caliber to use a pen other than a human being. So you need to understand, especially as leadership of schools, you need to understand that you have a bigger responsibility on educating your kids as your own kids, as citizens of India. So because we have a bigger responsibility. We have a weakness of being lazy and not realizing that we are losing something, or we have an emergency problem to address it. We learn it at a later stage. ये हमारी कमजोरी है. So mostly after a big crisis happens, we realize that we have lost. So this period of time that 2021 we are living in a crisis time. We need to realize that. The day which we are celebrating, 11th November today, a day of Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, is of so importance to understand and realize the theme behind it. It is said that leaders are not born. Leaders are built by either their own passion and compassion or by an ecosystem of building leadership. And Sayyid Ghulam Muhyiddin Ahmad bin Khairuddin al-Husseini, that is the full name of Abul Kalam Azad, is one of the mighty personalities whose life's mission was to gain knowledge, get educated, and then give back to the nation in building this educational foundation of a unified, unique, diversified nation called India. I mean, the time and energy he had spent in building the educational foundation of India, there is no comparison to that in the latest democratic developments of the world. We are so grateful and thankful and indebted to him and all the people like him. Currently in 2021, we are facing a very unprecedented time. Since late 2019, by an unknown known disease called COVID, due to which we have witnessed 7 billion people locked down from March 2020 to 60 to 90 days, and that is, it has never been happened in the human history. You don't have any documentation that shows that we have been locked down for 60 to 90 days. I don't know what is it actually. So it is a very unprecedented time we are living in. We'll have to face a machine. Either you accept it or not. आपको एक machine से मुकाबला करना होगा. So you'll have to think more than a machine, faster than a machine, then only you will be capable of getting a competitive lifestyle. Otherwise, a machine will take over more than 60% of jobs. Teachers' profile as at the highest stake. Because if you see the transition that is going on, I'm able to learn anything at sitting in Hyderabad. I'm able to learn from Oxford, I'm able to learn from MIT, I'm able to learn from IIT. Just paying fees online, getting admission, I get the e-learning classes. So why do I need to go to IIT campus? I do not need to go. This transition, if you realize, is going to take one recording done in a lifetime will support me for the next 20 years. So I'll teach the same recording for the next 20 years. I am not basically inventing anything. I'm not investing anything. So if you do not realize as teachers, this transition, teachers' job is at high stake. So teachers, leaders at the schools and institutions need to upskill yourself. अपने skills को आप enhance करें. See where the trend is going in the education sector and enhance your skills, upskill yourself. Thank you so much. Jazakallah khair.
Station to the government, because it's high time now that this sector gets organized. And listening to all the speakers in the panel, I have redefining itself. If we classify the history of Indian education, we can divide it into three, eras. The first era we can talk about is the pre-independence era, where most of the education systems were not organized, and British rule, they had three major, instances where they try to define the education system in India. So I will mention only the last part of, the pre-independence education, where the Sargent Plan of Education, it was advised to the government, and it was carried out by the Central Advisory Board of the Education in 1944. And it recommended pre-primary education for 3 to 6 years age group, which is free, universal, compulsory elementary education, and high school education for 11 to 17 years, and university course of 3 years. Okay. So most of the, like I said, the growth of these private schools has been up to 33% in the last 30 years, which is phenomenal. Okay. If we consider what are the challenges of the private school. There are two major challenges that we face, that is under-regulation and over-regulation. Now, in the current regulatory structure, we find that, the budget schools charge low fee, but they are subject to the same regulations as any other school, elite school. In fact, to open a school, around 125 documents are needed. And if the process is tracked, they would have to go to around 40 offices to get those documents done. And there is no relaxation for low budget schools in that sector. So that's one, problem that we face at the entry, and regulation. But in terms of regulation, we don't have any regulation when it comes to the learning outcomes. That is, how to decide what the children are learning, and how can you prove that your children are learning the best. So the second main barrier is to improve the learning outcomes. This is particularly true about 60% of all private schools, which do not extend to the board exam at all, because certain private schools, they do not have board classes, they cannot prove the result, or they cannot prove their efficacy in the system. That becomes a major problem.
आज यकीनन हम सब के लिए बड़ी खुशी का दिन है कि हमने आज नेशनल एजुकेशनल डे के तौर पर यहाँ जमा हैं, और बहुत सी बातें हमने यहाँ पर शेयर की, और बहुत सी बातें तो मेरी नज़र में ऐसी हैं जो प्रेजेंटेशंस यहाँ हुए वो बड़े मजमुए के अंदर होने वाले नहीं हैं, बल्कि बहुत महदूद तादाद में लोग बाकायदा वो वर्कशॉप करें और अपने एक्सपीरियंसेस को वो शेयर करें। प्रमोद साहब ने यहाँ पर बहुत सी बातें यहाँ बयान की। मेरा ख्याल है कि हम में से बहुत से लोगों को उसकी भिनक तक नहीं लगी है कि हीरो होंडा भी कुछ करता है, गोदरेज भी कुछ करता है, ये हमको मालूम तक नहीं है। तो ये जो हमारे भाई हैं ब्रदरान वतन, ये हमसे बहुत आगे हैं और हम बहुत पीछे हैं। ज़ाहिर है कि फिर हम ڈونیشنز کے لیے, چندے کے لیے, پھر ملت کے اندر ہی جاتے ہیں اور ملت کے اندر مدرسوں وغیرہ کا جو معاملہ ہے وہ سب ہم پر آیا ہے. جب تک دین کا ٹائٹل نہیں لگتا ملت کے اندر چندہ وصول نہیں ہوتا. آپ اگر انگلش میڈیم اسکول چلا رہے ہیں تو آپ کو کوئی چندہ نہیں دے گا, کوئی ڈونیشن نہیں دے گا. ہاں, آپ اگر دینی مدرسہ چلا رہے ہیں تو وہ ضرور دے گا. یہ تو ملت کا مزاج بنا ہوا ہے. تو ظاہر ہے کہ آپ کو سپورٹ باہر سے کچھ ملنے والا ہے نہیں. تو مولانا آزاد کی یاد میں آج ہم یہاں جمع ہوئے ہیں اور یقیناً ڈاکٹر ساجد علی صاحب ہم سب کے شکریہ کے مستحق ہیں اور ہم سب تہ دل سے شکریہ ادا کرتے ہیں کہ انہوں نے آج کے دن مولانا آزاد کو یاد کرنے کے لیے یہاں پر ہم سب کو جمع کیا. تو پوری ٹیم کو ہم مبارکباد دیتے ہیں. لیکن بہرحال یہ کہ اگر میرا خیال ہے آپ کا آج کا یہ پروگرام نہیں ہوتا تو حکومت نے تو ایک بہانہ بنا کر جو گورنمنٹل لیول کا جو پروگرام ہونے جا رہا تھا مرری چنا ریڈی انسٹیٹیوٹ, اب ہماری بہنیں وہ گورنمنٹ کا رول وغیرہ, گورنمنٹ کا رول لو بجٹ اسکولز کے اندر کیا ہے سوائے ستانے کے کچھ نہیں ہے جی. ہرڈلز پیدا کرنے کے, رکاوٹیں پیدا کرنے کے. ایک ہمارے دوست نے کہا کہ میں اسکول چلاتا ہوں اور ریکگنیشن کے لیے میں نے اپلائی کیا, 6 مہینے سے میں پھر رہا ہوں, 6 لاکھ روپے خرچ کر چکا ہوں, آفیسرز کے چکر لگا رہا ہوں. یہ ہے گورنمنٹ کا رول. اگر میڈیا کے لوگ اگر ہیں تو لکھیں, بجائے ان کو کچھ کرنے کے, اس کو سپورٹ کرنے کے. یہ ہے وہ رول جو سرکار ادا کر رہی ہے اس وقت. جی, سبیتا اندرا ریڈی رہتی تو میں بولتا ان کے سامنے کہ آپ کے آفیسز کے اندر جو برائب لی جا رہی ہے, جو ازدہوں کی طرح بیٹھے ہوئے ہیں, اس کا نتیجہ کیا ہوتا ہے؟ اس کا نتیجہ بچوں پر پڑتا ہے, اس کا نتیجہ فی پر پڑتا ہے. یہ کہاں سے لا کے دیں گے جیب سے پیسے؟ کچھ نہ کچھ کرنا پڑے گا ان کو. بالآخر پوری ملت پر پڑتا ہے, پوری قوم پر پڑتا ہے. تو گورنمنٹ کا اس وقت کوئی رول نہیں ہے. اور جو مائنارٹی ریزیڈینشل اسکولز قائم کیے گئے ہیں اس کے اندر بہت ہم نے محنت کی کہ اس میں اخلاقیات کی تعلیم ہو. ہمارا رول اگر کوئی صادق اور سچا مورخ ہوگا تو انشاءاللہ ضرور لکھے گا کہ ہم نے باقاعدہ ان کو عربی کے اندر قرآنیات اور اردو کے اندر دینیات کیسے پڑھانا چاہیے ایک سلیبس تیار کر کے دیا میں. ہماری ایک پوری ٹیم جس کے اندر سچا دین, بڑوں کا بچپن, ہماری کتاب, یہ سب انگلش کے اندر موجود ہیں. یہ سب ہم نے انگلش میڈیم کا سلیبس ان کو ڈیزائن کر کے دیا. اور پڑھانے کے لیے معلمین کو تقرر نہیں کر رہے تھے تو ملت کی طرف سے کچھ پیسے جمع کر ان کو, اور جماعت کی طرف سے کئی لوگوں کو ہم نے طے کیا کہ صاحب ان کو ہم جو اپوائنٹ کریں گے. لیکن اب تک کلیئرلی اپوائنٹمنٹ ان کا نہیں ہوا ہے اردو میڈیم, اردو پڑھانے کے لیے. اب جہاں تک انگلش میڈیم اسکولس آپ لوگ رن کر رہے ہیں, جتنے بھی لوگ ہیں اردو میڈیم کے بھی لوگ ہوں گے اس میں ان سے اپیل کروں گا کہ ضرور آپ ایک سبجیکٹ اردو کے طور پر بچوں کو ضرور پڑھائیں, فرسٹ لینگویج. اگر نہیں پڑھائیں گے تو آپ اپنے نسل کی صحیح خدمت نہیں کر رہے ہیں. اردو کی خدمت کرنا صرف اردو کی خدمت کرنا نہیں ہے, اردو کی خدمت کرنا ایک نسل کی حفاظت کرنا ہے, ایک تہذیب کی حفاظت کرنا ہے, ایک تمدن کی حفاظت کرنا ہے, ایک دین کی حفاظت کرنا ہے. اس لیے کہ دینی جو لٹریچر پایا جاتا ہے وہ سب اردو میں پایا جاتا ہے. یہ بچے سب محروم رہیں گے. ہمارے پاس جو بچے آتے ہیں کالجز کے اندر انگلش میڈیم پڑھ کے, نہ تو انگلش سمجھ میں آتی اس کو, نہ تو اردو سمجھ میں آتی. انگلش میں کوئی کتاب دیں گے پڑھنے کے لیے, ٹو ورڈز انڈرسٹینڈنگ آف اسلام دیں گے, پڑھ ہی نہیں سکتا, سمجھ ہی نہیں سکتا. کیا سمجھے گا وہ؟ نہ تو اس کو انگریزی کا لٹریچر سمجھ میں آتا ہے, نہ اردو کا لٹریچر. نتیجہ یہ ہے کہ وہ دین سے بے بہرا ہے. آج ارتداد کیوں بڑھ رہا ہے؟ آج ہماری بیٹیاں غیروں کے گودوں میں کیوں جا رہی ہیں؟ آج ہمارے لڑکے مرتد کیوں ہو رہے ہیں؟ اس کی اہم وجہ بنیادی دینی تعلیم کا نہ ہونا ہے. اگر آپ اسکول چلائیں جب تک بنیادی دینی تعلیم اور اردو اگر آپ کے پاس نہیں ہے تو میں سمجھتا ہوں کہ آپ کوئی اچھی خدمت نہیں کر رہے ہیں. صرف پیٹ کی خدمت تو آپ کر رہے ہیں, آپ اپنے لیے کر رہے ہیں, لیکن آپ دین اور اسلام کے لیے کچھ نہیں کر رہے ہیں, ملت کے لیے کچھ نہیں کر رہے ہیں. تو امید ہے کہ آج مولانا آزاد کو یاد کرتے ہوئے میرا خیال ہے کہ مولانا آزاد کی پہلی کتاب میں نے جو پڑھی, میں بالکل ابھی یہاں پر آل انڈیا مسلم ایجوکیشنل موومنٹ کی طرف سے ڈاکٹر ممتاز صاحب وغیرہ تھے, کنگ کوٹی کے اندر ایک پروگرام ہوا تھا, اور میرا خیال ہے کہ میں اس وقت 9th کلاس وغیرہ میں تھا. تو میں نے ان کی پہلی کتاب خطبات میں نے جو ہے پڑھی, خطبات آزاد سے میری شروعات ہوئی تھی, اور میں نے اسی کنگ کوٹی کے اندر وہ کتاب کو خریدا تھا. جو پیسے میں نے جمع کر لیے تھے ان پیسوں کے اندر اسلام آپ سے کیا چاہتا ہے کتاب, اور یہ کتاب میں نے جو ہے خریدی تھی. تو مولانا آزاد کی کتابوں کا ٹرانسلیشن, مولانا آزاد کی کتابوں کو پڑھانا, مولانا آزاد کی فکر کو عام کرنا, اور پھر برادران وطن کو بھی بتانا کہ مولانا آزاد کیسے سورما تھے تحریک آزادی کے. تم نے اس کو تعصب کی وجہ سے تم نے ان کے ساتھ میں ناانصافی کی ہے, یہ بتانا بھی وقت کی ضرورت ہے. جب لوگوں کو سمجھ میں نہیں آتا ہے تو بتانا پڑتا ہے, بتائے بغیر ان کو سمجھ میں نہیں آئے گا, ان کو بتانے کی ضرورت ہے. انشاءاللہ جب کبھی موقع ملے گا ہم گورنمنٹ کو بھی بتائیں گے, ان کو بھی بتائیں گے کہ آپ عین ایسے وقت میں آپ نے پروگرام رکھا اور پروگرام کو آپ نے جو ہے کینسل بھی کر دیا بہت آسانی کے ساتھ میں. تو اس سے اور آپ کے الیکشن سے کوئی تعلق نہیں ہے. کیا آپ وہاں پر ووٹرز کو تھوڑی بلا رہے تھے, وہاں پہ لوکل باڈیز کے لوگ تھوڑی آ رہے تھے پروگرام کے اندر, اور آپ نے پروگرام کو کینسل کر دیا. ہم اس پر بھی اعتراض بھی کرتے ہیں اور احتجاج بھی کرتے ہیں کہ گورنمنٹ کو چاہیے تھا کہ باوقار طریقے سے پروگرام کرتی. تو آئندہ میں سمجھتا ہوں کہ وہ ضرور بڑے پیمانے پر اس کے اندر کمپٹیشنز بھی رکھیں گے, مولانا آزاد کے افکار کو بھی بیان کریں گے, تقریری مقابلے بھی رکھیں گے بچوں میں, اور پھر ایسے رائٹنگ کمپٹیشنز بھی رکھیں گے, اور رکھتے ہوئے مولانا آزاد کون تھے, کیا تھے, تحریک آزادی میں ان کا کیا رول تھا, انشاءاللہ اس کو جو ہے ہم بیان کریں گے. اور ایک یہ جو آپ لوگوں کا ایسوسیشن پایا جاتا ہے, اس کے بیٹھیں, اور ٹرانسفر آف ایکسپیرینسز بہت ضروری ہے. کوئی اسکول اگر قائم ہوا تو وہ اسکول کئی ایکسپیرینسز سے گزرتا ہے, تو وہ ایکسپیرینسز شیئر کرنا بے حد ضروری ہے, ٹرانسفر ہونا ضروری ہے. کیونکہ اب کوئی چیز ہمارے پاس نازل ہونے والی نہیں ہے, کوئی نبی آنے والے نہیں ہے, کوئی رسول آنے والے نہیں ہے, کوئی کتاب نازل ہونے والی نہیں ہے. تجلی ہی کیا ہے, تجربہ ہی تجلی ہے, تجربہ ہی تجلی ہے. اور یہ تجربات جو ہے بہت اہم قسم کے تجربات ہوتے ہیں. اور ڈاکٹر ساجد علی صاحب کو میں مبارکباد دیتا ہوں کہ انہوں نے یہاں پر کچھ تجربات کو شیئر کرنے کا موقع عنایت فرمایا, لیکن میں سمجھتا ہوں کہ یہ کافی نہیں ہے. اس کے لیے بہت کینلی ہم کو بیٹھنے کی ضرورت ہے. ایم ایس کے لوگ بھی بہت سی چیزیں جو کر رہے ہیں, لیکن ان کے تجربات کو بھی عام کرنے کی ضرورت ہے. کوئی بھی چیز پیٹنٹ نہیں ہے, ملت کے اندر اس کو عام ہونا چاہیے, اور کوئی بھی ملت کا کام کر رہا ہے تو کوئی دوسرے کا دشمن نہیں ہے, اور نہ کوئی اس کا مد مقابل ہے. ہم سب لوگوں کو مل کر کام کرنا چاہیے. کم از کم تعلیم کو عام کرنے اور معیاری تعلیم دینے کے لیے تو ملت اسلامیہ متحد ہو جائے. کسی اور کے اندر متحد ہو یا نہ ہو, کم از کم اس معاملے کے اندر تو متحد ہو جائے, تو انشاءاللہ ہمارا بیڑا آگے بڑھ سکتا ہے, اور اس ملک کے اندر ایک شناخت کے ساتھ میں انشاءاللہ ہم زندگی گزار سکتے ہیں, اور آئندہ آنے والی نسلوں کو مسلمان باقی رکھنے کا بیڑا ہم انشاءاللہ اٹھا سکتے ہیں. ورنہ آئندہ آنے والی نسلیں یہاں پر نام کی مسلمان رہیں گی, لیکن وہ کام کی مسلمان نہیں رہیں گی.
ہمارے اس فنکشن میں جو ان کو ٹاپکس دیے گئے تھے اس کے اوپر بہت ہی عمدگی کے ساتھ وہ یہاں پر اپنے ٹاپکس کو رکھا. خاص طور سے ہمارے ساجد صاحب کا بھی میں زیادہ ممنون و مشکور ہوں کہ یہ پروگرام کو کامیاب کرنے میں وہ بہت ہی دل و جان سے اور بہت زیادہ انوالو ہو کر جو ہے اس کو کامیاب بنانے میں اور پوری پلاننگ میں ساجد صاحب کا بڑا رول رہا. میں ان کا خاص طور سے شکریہ ادا کرتا ہوں. میں جناب مولانا حامد محمد خان صاحب کا بھی شکریہ ادا کرتا ہوں کہ انہوں نے آج ہمارے اس تقریب میں شرکت کی اور ہمیں جھجوڑا ہے, ہمیں جگایا ہے. تو آج کے اس پروگرام میں آپ لوگ جاتے ہوئے کچھ ریفریشمنٹ کا انتظام کیا گیا ہے. میں آپ سے گزارش
پنجاب سندھ گجرات